Happiness is not something you chase. It happens like grace when your life is aiming at something greater than yourself. But what if I told you, that your obsession with being happy is the very thing keeping you empty? There's a kind of sadness that doesn't shout. It whispers in the morning scroll, in the forced smile at lunch, in the question you ask yourself in the shower and can't answer. We live in a world addicted to feeling good. Good vibes only, positive energy, chase your bliss. But underneath the surface, beneath the filtered pictures, motivational reels, and endless dopamine loops, there's a silent ache growing in millions of people. An ache we don't talk about. You might be feeling it right now. Not depression, not quite anxiety, just something missing, like you're breathing, but not alive. And yet, something inside you knows there has to be more than this. What if the truth about happiness isn't about adding more pleasure, more comfort, more positivity, but about finding something worth enduring pain for? That's what I want to show you. Not a motivational speech, not another morning routine for success, but the truth. The uncomfortable, unspoken, life-saving truth about why chasing happiness might be ruining your life. When a man cannot find meaning, he distracts himself with pleasure. Asterisk people often think despair comes loudly through tears, breakdowns, or outbursts. But some of the deepest forms of despair wear a smile. The man in the tailored suit with a perfect LinkedIn headline, the woman with a lifestyle vlog and the glowing skin, the college student who posts highlight reels while crying in a library restroom. They're all doing well, but something in them feels ... undone. We are more connected than ever yet, lonelier than any generation in history. We chase careers, optimize routines, tick off life goals. We read books about peak performance. We install apps to improve focus. We track sleep, steps, macros. But somewhere, quietly, the soul whispers, why am I doing all this? When a man cannot find meaning, he distracts himself with pleasure. That's the world we live in. Pleasure, distraction, dopamine, scroll, click, like, repeat. It's not joy we seek anymore, it's escape. Look around. People walk fast, but don't know where they're going. They laugh easily, but forget why they're sad. They crave applause, but can't hear their own voice. They stay busy because slowing down would mean hearing their own emptiness echo. And yet, we call this progress. We've traded silence for noise, depth for speed, meaning for metrics. We measure life by productivity apps, morning routines, unread emails, dopamine hits, and the ability to keep smiling under pressure. We want happiness like we want fast food, quick, salty, and in high doses. But here's the paradox. The more you try to feel good at all costs, the less you actually feel anything at all, because somewhere along the way, you forgot that happiness was never meant to be the destination. It was meant to be a side effect of a life lived with depth, with direction, with meaning. You can be surrounded by comfort and still feel cold inside. You can have access to every pleasure and still ache for something real. You can have it all and feel like nothing matters. It's not about having more. It's about being connected to something beyond yourself. That's what we've lost. A man once told me he had millions in the bank, a family, a home, a career, and yet, every morning, he felt like he was dying slowly. He said, I wake up with everything I dreamed of, and still, I feel empty. He thought he needed a vacation. He needed a purpose. She thought she needed a promotion. She needed to forgive herself. He thought he needed to be more productive. He needed to grieve what he never allowed himself to feel. This is the invisible war we're in. A silent epidemic of people living lives that look successful, but feels suffocating. It's the emptiness that creeps in after the applause fades. It's the silence after the notification stops. It's the realization that no number of followers will ever replace the feeling of being truly seen. We were not made for constant stimulation. We were not wired for endless comparison. We were not built to find joy in likes, achievements, or trending audio. And yet, here we are tired, anxious, spiritually dehydrated. Trying to quench our thirst with mirages. Ask yourself, why is it that, with more comfort than any generation before us, we're still waking up in the middle of the night, feeling lost? It's because no amount of pleasure can replace the ache for purpose, and no volume of noise can drown the whisper of the soul. That whisper, that faint voice that says, there must be more to life than this. You're not broken for feeling that way. You're not weak. You're not ungrateful. You're simply ... awake. You're feeling the discomfort of a life that wants to go deeper. You're hearing the echo of something your ancestors knew without needing to read books or take cold showers. That joy was never meant to be the goal. It was the residue left behind when you gave yourself fully to something that mattered. And maybe that's what's been missing. Not more hacks, not more pleasure, but more purpose. The one who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Asterisk, let me tell you, story. He came into my office dressed like most men do when they want to prove they're fine. Pressed shirt, clean shave, a tired smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He was 38, a successful consultant, 2 kids, a marriage that looked perfect on social media, condo downtown, frequent flyer miles, laughed at the right jokes, answered emails at midnight. But behind all that was quietly unraveling. He said, "Doc, I've read every book, done every diet, tried meditation, therapy, journaling. I've traveled, I've slept with women, I've made money. I've done everything people say makes life worth it. And still, I wake up feeling like something's dying inside me." He paused, swallowed hard. Then he whispered, "I don't want to die, but I don't know how to live." That sentence stayed with me because it wasn't depression he was drowning in. It was meaninglessness. And that, sometimes, is far more dangerous. See, pain alone doesn't break a person, but pain without purpose, that's what crushes the soul. He was chasing happiness like it was a destination, like a product you could unbox if you just bought enough, worked hard enough, learned enough. But every high faded, every win felt hollow. In every quiet moment, hurt, he was surrounded by light, but his heart lived in shadow. This is what I call the night of the soul. That place where nothing feels real anymore, where laughter sounds distant, and hope becomes something you remember, not something you feel. He told me, "I don't even know who I am without the noise, without the deadlines, without the next thing to chase." That's when I stopped asking him what he wanted from life, and I asked instead, "What does life want from you?" He blinked, then laughed, a bitter, confused laugh. "What does that even mean?" he said. I asked again, "Who would suffer if you disappeared tomorrow?" He grew quiet, very quiet. But then he said, "My son, he's 6. He still thinks I hung the moon." And there it was, the first flicker of something real. A single candle in a long, dark tunnel. Purpose doesn't always roar like thunder. Sometimes it whispers through the voice of a child. Sometimes it flickers like a candle in a storm. But when you find it, even the darkness starts to make sense. We didn't talk much about happiness after that. We talked about meaning, about responsibility, about legacy. He started picking up his son from school twice a week, not because it made him feel good, but because it mattered. He started writing letters to his future self, to the man he wanted to become, not for applause, but for truth. He cried often, felt angry sometimes, but something changed. He stopped chasing relief and started walking toward something deeper. One day, he came in and said, "I'm still tired, but it's a different kind of tired. It's the tired that comes after doing something real. Can that?" That's when I knew the healing had begun, because here's what people don't always understand. Healing doesn't mean you stop hurting. It means you finally start hurting for a reason. It's not about fixing your feelings. It's about anchoring them in something that matters more than comfort. And the truth is, meaning is often found right in the middle of our suffering. Not after the pain ends, but because of how we choose to face it. His story isn't rare. It's just rarely told, because too many people are taught to smile through the ache, to produce instead of feel, to move on instead of go deep. Okay. Listen, you're not here to numb your pain. You're here to understand it, to let it guide you. What is this pain pointing me toward? Okay. And when you ask that question sincerely, even your darkest night can become sacred. Even your breakdown can become a bridge. This man's story is not about a perfect ending. It's about a deeper beginning. He still has bad days. He still feels lost sometimes. And now he's anchored, okay? Now he has a why dot. And that why doesn't solve everything, but it makes the suffering worth it. Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. So if you're hurting, if you've tried everything and still feel empty, if you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back, maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just waiting to discover the fire that gives your darkness meaning. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a purpose, a reason to get up bigger than your pain. And when you find it, even the smallest candle can light the whole room. You see, in today's world, we've become masters of distraction, but amateurs at meaning. We know how to chase dopamine. We know how to numb discomfort. We know how to stay busy enough to not feel. But when the noise dies down, when it's 3 a.m. and the room is quiet, we realize something terrifying. We're not just tired, we're empty, and know that emptiness is not always a mental illness. Sometimes it's a spiritual signal, a soul-level hunger that no pill, paycheck, or pleasure can silence. In logotherapy, we call this neurogenic neurosis, pain that arises not from trauma or imbalance, but from the absence of meaning. It's a condition of the soul, not just the mind. But here's the problem. In our culture, we're trained to pathologize everything. We feel anxious, we medicate. We feel lost, we self-soothe. We feel sad, we scroll. But what if the sadness isn't a symptom to fix? What if it's a signal to listen to? The soul speaks through discomfort. And when it hurts, it's not always broken. Sometimes it's just ignored. The soul gets sick. I often say, when life no longer has a why, that ache in your chest, that fog in your thoughts, that silent question you keep avoiding, what am I doing all this for? Is this all there is? That's not weakness. It's missed wisdom trying to surface. You weren't made for endless pleasure. You were made for purpose. And there's a difference. Pleasure is like sugar, sweet, quick, and addictive. It satisfies for a moment, then leaves you needing more. But meaning is bread. It nourishes, it sustains, it doesn't spike, it anchors. We live in a society obsessed with the sugar rush, the next like, the next hit, the next escape. But meaning asks you to slow down, to go deeper, to feel instead of flee. Let me be clear. This isn't a call to reject medicine, therapy, or help. Those are vital tools. But when we reduce every ache of the soul to a chemical imbalance, we risk losing the very essence of what it means to be human. Because sometimes the pain isn't pathological, it's existential. It's not about serotonin levels. It's about soul questions left unanswered. Questions like, what truly matters to me? What am I willing to suffer for? What would I die for? More importantly, live for? These aren't symptoms, taints, and we must stop sedating them with endless stimulation. The truth is, you can feel deeply anxious even with everything going well, because when life lacks meaning, the soul rebels. It doesn't want more entertainment. It wants engagement. It doesn't want more comfort. It wants conviction. It doesn't want a faster life. It wants a fuller one. And fullness doesn't come from what you consume. It comes from what you contribute. It comes from the moments when you say, "This is why I'm still here." So here's the shift. We must stop treating the void like a virus and start treating it like a compass. When you feel lost, don't ask, "What can I do to feel better?" Ask instead, "What is life asking of me right now?" Maybe it's not about fixing the pain. Maybe it's about finding what makes it meaningful. That's where the healing begins. Not with avoidance, but with alignment. Not with comfort, but with calling. The ultimate cure for the modern soul is not more escape. It's return. Return to what matters. Return to what's real. Turn to that deep inner voice that whispers, "You were made for more than this." This is the diagnosis no one puts on your chart. It's a quiet ache of a life unrooted in purpose. It's a slow erosion of joy when you trade meaning for metrics. The knowing feeling that you're existing, but not living. But the good news, the wound is meaninglessness, then the medicine is meaning, and meaning is always available. It begins the moment you stop asking life to make you feel good and start asking how you can live it fully. The search for meaning is the primary motivation in one's life, not a secondary rationalization of instinctual drives. If you're hurting, don't rush to silence the pain. Let it speak. Let it lead. Because buried inside, it is a message from the part of you that still believes life can be beautiful. If you find the right reason to keep walking through the dark, asterisk somewhere along the way. We were sold a lie that the purpose of life is to be happy. That if you just chase the right job, the right partner, the right house, you'll finally arrive. But the truth, happiness was never meant to be chased. It's meant to be discovered quietly, humbly, in the shadow of something greater. It's not the destination, it's the echo. Viktor Frankl once said, "Happiness must happen, but it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's dedication to a cause greater than oneself." That sentence has saved more lives than most pills ever could, because it flips the script. Instead of asking, "What makes me happy?" it asks, "What's worth suffering for? What's big enough to lose myself in and find something better?" Let me show you what this looks like in real life. There's the young doctor in a war zone, exhausted, underpaid, always on edge. But when you ask her why she stays, she says, "Because I see lives change every single day." There's the father who gave up his dream career to raise his son after losing his wife. He'll never be rich. He'll never be famous. But when he looks in his child's eyes, there's a quiet joy no luxury can match. Or the retired teacher. In a small town in Wales, no headlines, no spotlight, but generations of kids walk taller because of her belief in them. These aren't happy people in the Instagram sense. They don't glow or sparkle, but they radiate something deeper, meaning, and because of that meaning, happiness finds them. There's a reason I like the image of the butterfly. If you chase it, it flutters away, but if you sit still, plant your garden, and tend to your purpose, it might just land on your shoulder. That's happiness, not hunted, but received, not forced, but earned through alignment. Modern culture teaches us to make happiness the goal. Everything's a life hack, a shortcut, a highlight reel. But chasing happiness directly is like trying to grab smoke. The tighter you squeeze, the less you hold. And yet, people devote their whole lives to this chase. They go from job to job, partner to partner, hobby to hobby, each time hoping maybe this will make me feel full. But fullness doesn't come from external wins. It comes from internal witnessing, those quiet moments where you realize, I'm living in alignment with who I'm meant to be. You want to feel alive? Don't ask what makes you feel good. Ask what makes you feel true. Not what's fun, but what's real. Not what distracts, but what calls. Because when you align with meaning, you stop grasping. You start giving, and giving especially when it's for something larger than yourself has a strange way of returning in the form of joy. Not flashy joy, but grounded, unshakable peace. Don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you are going to miss it. Happiness must ensue, and it does so only as the unintended side effect of one's dedication to a cause greater than oneself. This is the paradox of life. The moment you stop trying to feel better all the time, and instead start living better, as the moment life becomes, beautiful, not perfect, not always pleasant, but rich, textured, and worth it. So maybe you don't need a new path. Maybe just need a new perspective. Happiness is not something you build directly. It's what happens when you build something meaningful. Asterisk. So now you understand. The goal isn't happiness. It's meaning. And meaning doesn't scream. It whispers. If you want to find it, you have to slow down enough to hear it. In a world obsessed with volume, the truth is often found in silence. Let's walk this road together now, not with blueprints or formulas, but with something softer, a quiet guide. A map written in the language of the soul. There are 4 doors. You don't need to open all of them at once. Just knock and listen. 1. Listen to the silence and the emptiness. We spend so much time avoiding the quiet. We fill it with noise music, podcasts, total lists, scrolls. But sometimes the silence is not your enemy. It's your mirror. And yes, it might show you your loneliness, your ache, your unanswered questions. But if you're brave enough to stay a little longer in that stillness, you may begin to notice something beneath the noise, a longing, a direction, a calling. That emptiness you feel is not proof something's wrong. It might be the space where meaning is waiting to take root. 2. Write the pain that needs a widened. Keep it locked inside. Pick up a pen. Let the ink carry what your mouth can't say. Write down the ache you don't understand, the loss you pretend didn't hurt, the shame that lingers, the questions you're afraid to ask. Frankl once wrote, "The meaning of life is to find something or someone worth suffering for. Your suffering isn't pointless, but to see its purpose, you have to first face it. When you write your pain, you begin to unravel it. You start to see patterns, connections, truths. You begin to give shape to something formless, and that's the first step to healing. 3. Do something for someone else. It's one of life's strange paradoxes. When you lift someone else, your own burden feels lighter. Hold a stranger's hand. Call someone who's hurting. Donate your time. Cook a meal. Send a note that says, you matter. You don't need a platform. You don't need applause. It's one genuine act of service. Because when your life stops being just about you, it starts becoming something bigger than you. And that's where purpose lies. In the reaching, in the giving, in the forgetting of self for the sake of love. For give meaning to the pain. There is pain that breaks you, and there is pain that builds you. What makes the difference? Meaning, we can't always choose what happens to us, but we can choose what it means to us. Maybe your heartbreak will make you more compassionate. Maybe your failure will push you to teach others how to rise. Maybe your grief will turn into the courage to love again fully, vulnerably, bravely. That's transcendence. Not escaping pain, but letting it reshape you into something stronger, deeper, more awake, like a seed underground, cracked open before it can grow. You don't need to fix your whole life this week. You just need to begin. Begin by slowing down, by listening, by writing, by giving, turning your pain into something holy. Logotherapy isn't just a therapy, it's a philosophy, a quiet revolution against the chaos of modern life. It doesn't offer you escape, but anchoring, not comfort, but courage. It asks, not, how do I feel better, but what is my life asking of me? And in answering that question, you stop surviving and start living. No, this won't always feel easy, but it will feel real. It will feel true. And maybe that's what your soul's been craving all along. You're not here just to be entertained. You're here to matter, to transform your suffering into service, to take your silent ache and make it sing. So don't chase happiness, real meaning, and let happiness find you like a bird landing on an open palm. Asterisk, maybe you won't find happiness. It's not the kind they sell in ads. It's not the kind that disappears by morning. But maybe you'll discover something much greater, a reason to get up when the weight feels unbearable. A voice inside that says, this matters. Keep going. Quiet courage that no applause can match. Maybe joy won't come as a flash of fireworks, but as a quiet warmth in the middle of a hard day when you remember why you're still standing, because you're living for something beyond yourself, for someone who needs you, for a purpose that outlives pain. So today, instead of asking yourself, am I happy? Ask, for whom am I living? Ask it not with anxiety, but with reverence, with your hand on your heart and your soul wide open. There are questions that don't need answers, just the courage to keep walking with them, to let them shape you slowly, to let them lead you somewhere sacred. And if your path is hard right now, remember, the night feels darkest before the stars begin to speak. And sometimes the most meaningful lives are built quietly, through love, through loss, through small acts of presence and purpose. Your story isn't over. It's unfolding. And maybe, just maybe, it's becoming beautiful. Illuminating what the ego hides. Listening to what the soul whispers.